Hello everyone, welcome back. I am Joe Figueroa, bringing you another video on our series Anatomy of a Dance, where I break down social dancing count for count, pointing out all the dancers do. In this week's video, I'm going to showcase this dance with Venance and Leia. There's some really interesting movements in here, so please share, like, subscribe. If you want to support the channel, there's a link in the description, but you better do it fast because we're starting right now. As a salsero, social dance is everything to me. The idea of being able to hit the dance floor, approach any follow in the room and establish a connection with them and the music is the core reason why I got into this. Because dance is language. There is a communication and interrelation that is just beautiful to me. Having good communication between two dancers requires certain things from each. For the leads, as I discussed before, we communicate a lot through our hands on the follow's body. So being clear and dexterous are good tools for the lead to have. For follows, perceptiveness is key. Being responsive to that dexterity from the lead. Approaching each dance and each partner with a certain malleability. These two are a perfect example of what I'm talking about. I don't know either of them, but I know good dancing when I see it. Venance is so smooth with some of his movements that you don't even see what he does at first glance. Leia is what I refer to as a hair trigger response. So open to any point of contact and reacts quickly. We're going to take a look at a few sequences. Sequences because the excellent technique is consistent throughout. Example 1. Blind movements. You're going to see this happen a lot in this dance. How Venance leads movements behind him. Not seeing what he's doing, but certain he's doing it well based on touch and an understanding of movement. They're dancing on 2. Venance gives a standard inside turn to Leia. Then with a smile raises his right hand indicating to Leia that he would like her left hand. In addition, notice leads how Venance sidesteps to his right on the count of 7 while raising his right hand. Something as simple as stepping to his right, her left, provides much needed information. He created a path for her, informing her that her next movement would be down the line that he just provided. Let's move on. He connects to her left hand with his right and creates a progressive or clockwise turn for Leia. It has the appearance of a double, but it's actually a single. He turns slightly to his right, making the circular motion with his arm behind him, thereby giving Leia the progressive turn that he cannot see, but can feel. That was good, but it gets better. Venance places her left hand to his right shoulder and releases it. Having his left hand at the ready, he is able to collect her left hand in his immediately after its release. I love this part. He now has her left in his left. Venance quickly tosses that arm up and behind his back in a type of flick. I'm going to pause it right here. Now most dancers might flick the hand in this manner and then catch it on the opposite side with the other hand. What would you do? Another option is for the lead to place their right hand to the follow's upcoming left thigh or hip on their next forward step, or use that same right arm to block the follow's path, sending them back to their first position. Now let's look at what Venance did. He flicks the hand over his head. Now look here. He has his right hand down and back, visible to Leia. So one might deduce that he intends to catch her left hand in his right behind his back. Nope. Almost as quickly as he made it visible, he removes it from the equation. It's very likely that Leia dropped her hand down to connect with his at that low point, but he removed it. For this split second, Leia is without lead, unsure as to what he intends. She has literally no points of contact with him. Now look at this. You see this? That's Venance's left hand, reaching all the way around to her right side. Relying on a sense of touch, Venance makes contact with her right hip as she steps forward on 2. See it? Right here. While still blind on her, he sidesteps again while she cross steps, creating a path for her again, a path that is now behind her. Venance leads her down that path and steps back to make his position clear to her. So the first thing she sees coming out of this back-to-back movement is him with his left hand up asking for her right to head into the next movement in this sequence. Look at the attention to detail, the courtesy extended. He knows she cannot see him, so he always offers points of contact to establish reassurance for her. As they both are backstepping here, you can see that Venance extends his right hand to her lower back, just before she breaks back on 6. He uses that point of contact to guide her into this back break, sometimes referred to as an enchufe. He doesn't let this point of contact go, keeping it at the small of her back and using both of his hands now to return her to that last position while he steps across the line to her other side. Look at Leia's perfect following technique. Going back to here, after her hand is tossed, she keeps her arm extended to its length. reaches well out in front of her and aims for connection with his right hand, which appears to be waiting. During all this, she continues to step. She's stepping forward here on 2. Her hand is now down, but Venance's hand is no longer available. For many dancers, this could result in a moment of panic. With no point of contact and no information to receive, one might go looking for their partner. But not Leia. She keeps her gaze straight forward on the line, trusting that information is coming. And it does with Venance's hand to her hip. Even that is sometimes met with panic, but she moves fluidly through the rest of the count, goes along with the cross step in front on the count of 3 that Venance is likely suggesting with his handhold, and then straight back on 5 and eventually 6, with full confidence that he will not be in her path.
Is that it?
No, there's more. You see?
Given that Leia cannot see where Venance is or is going to be, Leia reaches her right arm up, straight up, elbow first. Like I always tell my students in class, on the dance floor, you want to make yourself taller, not wider. Look at how her elbow is straight up. Were it out to the side, she could end up hitting Venance on the side of the head. Not knowing where he is going to be, Leia made herself taller, slimmer, so that no matter where Venance ended up, she would not impede his lead or positioning. All of that while operating predominantly from touch. This is an unorthodox movement with perfect technique from both. After the enchufa in the next count, Venance starts a continuous turn for Leia, beginning on a count of 6. The first turn happens to the right of Venance, the second turn to his left. Look at how he leads the first turn with his left hand. Once she comes full circle, and they are face to face, he switches handhold to his waiting right hand, down low at the midpoint, then swings it upward to pass over both of their heads for Leia's second turn. They have now traded places. Venance sidesteps to clear Leia's upcoming path, leads a touch and go progressive into a simple display position so we can get a look at Leia's lovely smile. This dance took place, as you can see, at the Aqua Salsa Party, which is the pre-party for the Paris International Salsa Congress, run by Moise Konate. There's Moise right there. I asked why they call it Agua, and am told that it's because the pre-party is on a boat, in the water. I believe Leon Rose is also involved in the organization of Agua. That's Leon right there. Anyway, moving on. The next piece I love because of the quick hand switches. The use of the monkey mentality that I've talked about before in other videos. In the last sequence I mentioned, the continuous turn. This sequence begins with one as well. Venance creates a hard break feel to change Leia's direction immediately out of that progressive turn. They are in handshake hold position, right to right. Once the turn begins, Venance releases her right handhold, but he knows she is focusing on the line in front of her, so he extends his left hand out so it will be the first thing she sees coming out of that turn on 6-7-1. Look at how quickly he replaces his right point of contact with his left, gripping her arm just below her elbow, then sliding his hand down to her left hand during her second turn, giving her all the slack of her arm in order to have the turn flow without incident. Here's where it gets cool. Venance reaches with his right hand to Leia's right hip as she comes through that second turn, grips her hip tightly to make that final turn into a check. He could have done this with the left arm that he just picked up and now has wrapped at her waistline, but he has plans for that left arm, so he reinforced lead on her right side to accomplish the next movement. Check this out. She is now checked. He has stopped her counterclockwise turn. Venance raises both his and her left hand up and over her head to her left side. At the same time, he releases her right hip and quickly takes hold of her right arm in his right hand. New point of contact. Releases the left hand because he just created focus for her in her right, and uses said right handhold to create a double spin on the spot. Follows, notice Leia's perfect spotting technique here. Her head is the last to go, but first to arrive. Leads observe that Venance creates the turn energy from his shoulder on down. He doesn't use just his wrist. Also, the circle he draws over her head is flat and even. These components are done with machine-like precision. That's what makes it look so effortless. Now, if you're watching this and feel that from this angle, it's too hard to determine if what I just described is accurate, you're in luck. Here is the same movement again from the front, a little bit later. See, right hand at the hip to reinforce lead, raises the left hand up to the left side, and quickly releasing the left hand while picking up the right to lead a clockwise spin on the spot. Very well done. Actually, this version from a different angle takes me right into the next thing I wanted to show you. For Venance, it's leading by touch instead of sight again. For Leia, it's the premise that the follows follow the hand. Look at these 5 counts. After the double, which ends with Leia's left hand behind her back, connected to his left hand, Venance creates a hard break feel again, changing Leia's direction so they are both facing the same direction. Look at how Venance steps forward to trade places with Leia. See how he has his arms crossed in front of him, keeping her arm pulled to its length and making sure he has that arm right up against his body. That's his attempt to keep that straight line for Leia. guaranteeing that step with her left. Her 2 will be forward, not back. He removed all the slack her arm could have, indicating to her that her direction will be forward. Then he sidesteps to his right, blocking her path, which tells her the rest of this movement will be on the spot. He passes the left hand over his head and then, without looking, over her head to create a right hand turn for her on the spot. That turn happened on the count of 2, 3, and 5, and he still hasn't turned to face her. He brings that handhold full circle and continues through to draw a second circle over their heads on the counts of 6, 7, and 1. You have to appreciate the control and understanding that it takes to be able to create turns on the preps and the movements behind your back, relying on your sense of touch. Also appreciate what it takes for any follow to relinquish control and give that amount of trust to your partner. This is what training does. That leads us into the pattern I showed in the previous segment. Now look at how it ends. A single right turn this time. Venance twists his wrists in order to give the feeling of a behind his back release. We can't see it clearly, but here you can see his palm up. That indicates to me that he's using his wrist. A moment later you can see he raises his elbow here, which means his palm holding her hand is aimed downward toward his own shoulder. He releases her hand and has his left hand at the ready in order to collect her right hand immediately, making sure that she is never without a point of contact. And so the beginning of the end. Venance hard breaks again to change Leia's direction just as he did a little while ago. This time the handhold is above her head, whereas the other was led from her waistline. Here's where it gets good. Venance, once again blind, guides Leia's hand to the left, causing her to take her 2-step back and slightly left, implying a left-hand turn. In addition, Venance steps back with his left, which amplifies the feeling for Leia that the direction of her movement is to her left. Suddenly, Venance holds firm, which stops Leia on her left step, the count of 2, and then begins to guide Leia to the right, over his head, then hers, resulting in a right-hand turn on the spot, rather than the left, which was first indicated. And he did all that blind, not even once glancing over his shoulder. He even notices the guy walking past his right side and squeezes his shoulders in to make room for the guy, while leading a version of the late pull that I showed in a previous video. This dude is a beast. That is
total situational awareness.
Okay.
You look, you listen, you smell.
There's one more sequence I want to talk about in this dance, but I'm going to save it for later. I feel that it's deserving of its own separate breakdown. April 2022 is the next Paris International Salsa Congress. I will be going, and I hope to meet these guys, as well as others, then if not before. You can reach out to Moaz Gonete for information. I'll put a link to the PISC in the description. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I know it's a long one. If you want to support the channel, there's a link in the description. You can help me to give you what you want to see if you like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one, and hopefully very soon on the dance floor.